Kia ora whānau. Welcome to our 30-day summary. Quick breakdown of our Turuki 30-day fasting, metabolic fasting protocol. And I really want to just give you some comparisons from days 1 to day 30. And this includes our human body scan that I completed this morning. Now, I'm going to start with weight because I've put it at the top of the list. So we started at 92.3 kilos when we started this journey on day 1. Now, yesterday morning, I weighed in this morning, I weighed in at 85.2 kilograms. So that was 7.1 kilos of weight loss. So my goal was to make 84, which I actually did, but I've gone back up. Now, I don't think it really came down to the food that I was eating, that it's gone up, and I don't think it's a bad thing either. Because we have to take into account things like water retention, bloating, and so on. So I'm really happy with 7.1 kilos lost over 30 days because that's sustainable, and I will continue the process. And weight was not necessarily the goal, but I really did want to maintain or build muscle in the process. And if we're doing that, then weight will move normally in the direction of going up more so than the direction coming down. One of the great things that I really wanted to touch on was at the very beginning of this, my bloods were very good. I did try hard to sort of get unfit, get unhealthy for about 9 weeks prior to starting the 30 days. And when we did my blood test, they still came back pretty good. So it just shows you when you're healthy already, it is hard to really get unhealthy. But it's easy to fall into that space over long term and then see the gradual decline. But that sort of changed my lens a bit because there wasn't really much to improve in my bloods. There's an opportunity to always improve our bloods and improve what they can look like. But to be honest, there wasn't much going on there. They were really good. So when we did the human body scan, on day 1, my visceral fat index score, which is the fat that's below the abdominal wall, this is the fat that accumulates around your organs. Now, my index score was 14, so that one really highlighted for me that was a goal that I wanted to get down. Now, as of day 30, and I'm really stoked about this, I'm down into 9 is my index score. So that's a 5-point drop in my visceral fat index score in 30 days. And this is the number that really matters most when we start talking about metabolic health, insulin sensitivity, and it's now sitting in the standard range, which is awesome, rather than being elevated. So this is a metric the whole protocol is really built around, because when we do fasting and different versions of it, one of the fats, as in visceral fat, is one of the first to actually reduce, and that is what we want to see, because this is a very active fat and causes a lot of inflammation throughout the body. So really happy with that outcome. Also, just to give you some metrics and some breakdowns, my body fat percent on day 1 started at 31.9, so that was considerably high. Now it's dropped to 29.2, so that's a 2.7% drop. Now I'm really happy with that as well. My subcutaneous fat mass has gone from 25.7 kilos, but that's dropped to 21.6 kilos. That's a 4.1 reduction, and I'm, like I said, really stoked with that. Skeletal muscle mass, so I started at 37.7 kilograms, and that has actually gone up to 38.5, so that is just on, it's 800 grams of improvement there, which is really positive, because that just shows us that not only did I maintain muscle, but I actually improved it over the 30 days. My lean mass, that went from 37 57.0 kilograms up to 58.4, so that was a 1.4 increase. My body cell mass, that went from 40.1 kilograms to 42.5, that's 2.4 kilograms improvement. Now, the next one that I really am happy with was my body water. So this was 48.8%, and now that's gone up to 55.4%. That's a 6.6% increase. So this is really good. And I would contribute that to the addition of having soul water as my daily routine. By having that and accumulating, doing that and drinking more water, I didn't notice that I wasn't going to the toilet all the time. So I was actually holding on to my body water percentage, which was really good, and I'm really happy with that. We also saw a decrease over the entire month, over the entire 30 days, my resting heart rate dropped 2 points. So I was really happy with that. So we're starting to see metabolic improvements throughout everything. Even my BMR, I'm not a big fan of BMR, to be honest, but even my BMR only had about a 29 cal difference, which was really nothing. So it just shows you, like, when we start eating whole food, real food, then we start to see how energy is used, but also how the body is adjusting and the healing process is working. Now, we also have metabolic age, and so same again, this is, can be misunderstood. And so I started at 55 years. So it only took me 9 weeks to add age on. From my normal age, 47 to 55 was a massive jump. But I've actually managed to drop it by 4 years in 30 days. So this is a really good outcome. So, every single track metric moved in the right direction over the 30 days. Fat down, muscle lean mass up, hydration up, metabolic age down, subcutaneous fat mass dropped 4.1 kilos, remembering that, on top of a 5-point decrease with my visceral fat index score. So, again, really happy with that. Now, are we finished? Well, to be honest, no, I'm not. I'm going to keep going. I won't be doing these videos all the time, but what I've wanted to do with this was just educate on how, if you are going to do a GLP-1 drug, it's going to cost a lot of money, and we're talking like $500 a month. Now, by doing something like this, we could potentially do it at a really cost-effective, on a budget, and still promote GLP-1 stimulation through foods, fasting, sleep, movement, and so on to get the same results. And on top of that, build behaviors that are sustainable and something we can carry on for a longer time, well after we complete like a protocol like this. The downfall, or one of the pitfalls of using the Wegovy GLP-1 drug is we get the great results, no doubt about that, but then we don't see a lot of whānau maintaining those results because they don't learn the behaviors. They don't learn how to eat better, they don't learn how to sleep better, they don't learn how to move more, and understanding that these are all medicine for our long-term and ultimately our well-being. So this is really important to share with you because it shows you how, through doing what we've just done over the 30 days, is creating behaviors that ultimately can be sustainable and carried on through and keep improving our health outcomes. And this is my goal, is to keep going now. Not necessarily do the fasting protocol every day, but do maybe change things up, like changing the way I work out, changing my eating windows, changing to be a bit more intentional in areas to optimize my benefits and my outcomes. And I'll share like a video a month from now to show you where I'm at after another 4 weeks, and also share how and what I've done. But really, this will be more of a breakdown of the things that I've included and changed while still maintaining and building on quality behaviors. So, one of the other things I really wanted to talk into were things such as satiety. So this steadily improved over the 30 days. I started to notice that I wasn't hungry all the time. I didn't even want to eat sometimes. So that whole thing around food noise really, really disappeared. And we see this with the drug as well, and that's why people do so well on it. Whānau do well on it because all these things are shut off, allowing you to actually realize you're not eating like you would normally eat, so your body is burning energy, hopefully burning fat. But we also know there are pitfalls. Whānau do lose muscle when they're doing these drugs, and by doing what we've done, we've managed to put muscle on. So this is also really important because muscle is another part of longevity, and the more muscle we have, the more energy that our body will utilize. So cravings, that was really noticeable when maybe it was a busy, very stressful day. I noticed that cravings would come in at those moments. So I had to be a bit more aware, but also really prioritize foods that were going to create satiety, but also foods that were going to also complement what I was doing with the 30-day fasting protocol. Energy throughout the 30 days vastly improved. Like, that got better and better. I found that I could do a 10k row on the ERG rowing machine, and by the end of the 10k I didn't feel tired, I didn't feel exhausted, and I felt that I still had more in the tank to give. So that showed really good fat adaptation. I also found that sleep was different when I was fasting and I had less hours of sleep. Throughout the day I still had maintained good quality energy. Mood was pretty good as well, and that was but when I ate food and then I had a short sleep, I found that had created another stress element. So that's where I realized that maybe sometimes with fasting, because you're not in rest and digest all the time, on less sleep, we can actually still function throughout the day, but that changes as soon as we add food in there. So just a little thing for me anyway. Mood under stress too was pretty good, and this stayed good pretty much throughout the month, and I was pretty happy with it. So, the most important finding of the whole protocol was, satiety naturally improved, food noise disappeared almost entirely, and this is exactly what natural GLP-1 activation is supposed to do. Cravings didn't vanish completely. They tracked stress, not hunger, which is a useful signal in itself. So it's a good thing to think about. The standout discovery was definitely that the fasting days and the short night's sleep. This was always interesting. Fasting seemed to buffer the usual toll on poor sleep on energy and mood. So one thing I'm really, really happy with too is I was able to, over the 30 days, do a good breakdown on my sleep. So with the ring, I was able to measure some really good behaviors. So my average sleep score for the whole 30 days was 79. This is pretty good. Anything from sort of 75 to 85 is good, and anything above that is very excellent. So really good average sleep score. My average total sleep, as in duration, was actually 7 hours and 15 minutes. So that was really, really good. My chronotype is a late morning person. I'm not a fan of getting up early and going to the gym, but I made a point of doing that. So my bedtime hours were between 8:45 and 10:15. That was my bedtime. And, and getting up around 6:30, 7:30, somewhere in that window, which gave me a good sort of duration of sleep. When I did get those times on par, I actually found that my deep sleep was really, really good in those spaces. And I also felt that The durations were good, but the HRV was also really good in those spaces. So sleep timing and restfulness both improved significantly through the 30 days. And staying close to that bedtime window tracked closely with higher scores. So that was a really good insight for me. So the last 14 days were very, very interesting. But also, I had, over the 4 weeks, I did a lot of intentional movement. So that was really important. And majority of it was just walking. Just walking. The other ones that I did were weighted vest walking. So still walking. So either backpack or a weighted vest. And then I did my concept rowing at the gym. So, you know, having done at least something like that most days, there were a couple of days in this whole month where I would just have a rest. But even on the heavier days, I still would do a light workout, as in the way of just a nice easy walk, just to move the body, keep the blood flow up, keep the energy consistent, and be intentional with working towards that goal of supporting this fasting protocol. So the last 14 days also with sleep, this was another thing I wanted to point out. Weekly deep sleep average dropped from 1 hour 9 minutes to 38 minutes in the last 2 weeks. Efficiency fell from 91 to 81. Resting heart rate trended from 57 to 64, while HRV showed a gradual decline over 90 over that time as well. Breathing rates also crept up slightly, 15.0 to 15.9 breaths per minute. You know, this is really good information because I do know over the last 14 days of the 30-day total, my sleep wasn't the best, and that was because I had a lot going on and I didn't quite manage it well enough with my sleep quality. Also meal timing, and that all played a big part and impacted that as well. All right, so total savings when we talk about like the cost comparisons, $498/$500 for Wegovy GLP-1, we came to a total of $237.50. That was a total saving of $260.50. Real food, real fasting, and we dropped 5 points in that visceral fat index score, so that was really good. So, you know, really, really easy to do when you have some really good coaching support around you. So if this is something that really interests you, please drop us a comment, send us a message, and let's connect with you. And, you know, we've got to do it safely. We've got to talk about like what you could adhere to. So we also want to make sure that we're checking in regards to medications. Have we talked to our GPs? What would we say to our GPs? You know, we want to make sure that everything has been talked about to create a safe space to be able to, you know, do this really, really well. And then with some health coach support to also get you there. So on that note, I'm really happy with the outcomes. In about 30 days from now, I will share more about what I'm doing over the next 30 days in that one video, and this will be a post follow-up from this and what I've built on top of it in regards to behavior change, okay, quality behavior change, and what my goal is now moving forward for the next 30 days. So one of them is I would like to build more muscle mass, continue building on my ERG rowing distance, because I'm building for something in October and I want to have that endurance, but I want to be fat adapted, but I also want my body to respond to that the right way. And so I'm also looking at composition as well. Okay, so thank you for joining in for the last 30 days. We do appreciate the comments, and we love all the questions that are coming through, and we just want you to know if this is something that interests you, please reach out. Let's have a conversation. And yeah, no harm in trying. And like I said, massive saving when it comes to comparing it to a GLP-1 antagonist. And with coaching, you can do this.